Welcome to this JMC webinar, the ABCs of JMC Teacher. My name is Jake Bansko. I'm the head of training here at JMC. And prior to, I was a teacher that used JMC, a high school English teacher that used JMC for about 10, 12 years. Became an instructional coach, worked with teachers, training teachers on all sorts of things, including gradebook functions in JMC. And now, as a trainer with JMC, I'm here to explain the new, or I shouldn't say to many new folks, or if you're new to JMC, how to use JMC's teacher, the gradebook, and all the functions that you're going to rely on throughout the school year. And for those of you who are maybe just looking for a refresher, hopefully you'll see some familiar topics and provide some time to answer any questions you might have. So, busy teachers like you deserve time-saving tools that put you at the front of the class. JMC Teacher delivers with anywhere access to attendance, grading, communications, and more, helping you ace the job of classroom management. Explore JMC Teacher with us, including a plethora of gradebook options to learn which one is right for you. We'll also share how to easily record and report on student infractions, plus track all interactions, disciplinary included, giving you the confidence to answer any questions. So to start out here, we'll orient you to JMC Teacher, including logging into your site. Easily manage your classes, attendance, and grading directly from your web browser. With JMC Teacher, you can conveniently access all your class information online. Keep track of daily attendance, communicate with families through emails and text messages, input assignment scores, share student progress updates with families, and much, much more. All it takes is your district's website, a username, and a password to begin using this comprehensive platform. To begin with, you're going to navigate to your district's JMC site. So it's probably going to be something like yourdistrict.onlinejmc.com. And then click the teacher icon. One of the common mistakes folks make is just to Google search JMC teacher login, and you might get a login from any one of our JMC schools. So you need to find your district's host site and then click that teacher icon from the home page there. From there, we recommend that you bookmark this page so you can easily or quickly access it. But from there, make sure that you are in the current school year, 25-26. Also, kind of a helpful tip, if you ever need to go back in time to check out last year's assignments or last year's class lists or anything like that, you can change the year. You'd log out, change the year, log back in, and you can view and access any of your prior year's data. As mentioned, helpful tip after visiting the JMC Teacher Portal for the first time, bookmark this site for easy future access. Step 2, enter your username and password in the username and password fields. If you need to change your password, place a check mark in that change password checkbox and begin entering a new password. Click the login button to get logged into JMC Teacher. And when you're there, if you have had any recent modifications to your class lists, the added and dropped students since the last login will pop up displaying notifications of the changes or any changes that were made. You can either print this or close that to return to the JMC Teacher homepage. So let's quickly log into JMC Teacher. And in order to do so, I better log out. And what we're looking for is the URL. So you can see my URL of my demo school is jmcpaul.onlinejmc.com. Yours, might be whatever your school goes by, .onlinejmc.com. Once you're there, it'll take you to this landing page, and the landing page is where all different users or sorts of users are going to access the portal that they need to be working in. So your office staff and your students and family will also use this landing page. The JMC Teacher Portal will allow you to log in with your username and password. And then if you needed to change the school year, you can switch the year, go back in time. If you need to change your password, place a check mark in that change password, and you can enter a new password. There's going to be an email sent to the email address that's on file, prompting the change of password. So log in. I do not have any new add or dropped students, so it logs me into the home page directly. While here, just I'll briefly orient you to this page. Along the left-hand side, you've got your menu tree, which we're going to be diving into in depth here shortly. Top middle of this page, it'll display what current school day we're on. So if you are eagerly anticipating day 100 or day 180 in some of your cases, you can keep an eye on this and keep track of those days as you go. The current school year will be displayed in a color, and this year's color is light blue. Last year's color was purple, so if you logged in here and you're seeing purple in the upper right-hand corner and you notice that your class lists seem like the same list that you had last year, you'll need to log out, change the year, and log back in to 25-26. The upper right-hand corner, you'll notice the support email address and the remote support. The only thing that I would say about this is more for technical assistance. If you're receiving error messages or things like that in JMC, you can reach out to our tech support folks. But if you have questions about how things function in JMC, I would recommend reaching out to training@jmcinc.com. We also have a help center that everybody can access. Google JMC Help Center, and it will take you to this Intercom Help Center. And we have all sorts of articles divvied up by user. We have our JMC Teacher Help Center that has 75 articles that covers everything from logging into JMC to using any one of the gradebook options there. So you lose access to this specific video, know that you have a help center available, or if you just prefer written communication as opposed to spoken through a video, this is a great resource. And we have a great YouTube channel. It's our JMC training channel. If you just search JMC training at YouTube, you can click our JMC training link and it's going to take you to all of our videos, and we have a playlist for JMC Teacher and our new user playlist as well. And our new user playlist will contain the ABCs of JMC Teacher, which is the presentation you're watching right now. So if you wanted to view that later on, you can certainly return to this video and review any of the sections that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So that's a little bit about JMC. If there are any questions, you can use the Q&A chat feature built right here into Ring Central, and I'll try to keep an eye on that as we go and answer questions as we get to them. Otherwise, let's keep it rolling here. Starting with probably one of the first tasks you're going to complete in JMC after you get logged in that first day. We're talking those first day things. Entering attendance and submitting lunch counts to the office. The classroom attendance entry page of JMC Teacher facilitates swift attendance recording by displaying the entire class and offering the option to view student photos, ensuring accurate attendance totals while promptly notifying parents about any unknown absences for further inquiry into the reason of the absence. To enter classroom attendance, to be sent to the office, log into JMC Teacher and navigate to classroom attendance, enter attendance. So we are classroom attendance, enter attendance. Step one, and really step one and step two are just kind of verifications that the current day populates. So this is always going to populate to the current day. You will not be able to go back in time to set attendance for a previous day, but you can review any previous day's attendance that you've submitted. The course is going to default to your period one course. So if you're a high school, middle school teacher that takes attendance for each period, you're going to see your first period course there. And after you submit attendance, it's going to automatically move to the next course on your list. If you're an elementary teacher, you might only need to submit attendance one time a day. So your first period course is going to populate up here. It's probably going to have all of your homeroom students on that list. You just submit those and you're done for the day. Fun fact, courses and rosters may change from one day to the next according to the master schedule created in JMC Office. So we have a couple different tools that would allow you to view students that are either tagged or are only attending courses on certain days of the week. So we do offer tags, and we do have this drop-down list for days in cycle. So if you are not seeing the list of students that you would expect to see, you can check those two drop-down lists, especially if your students are filtered by maybe like an A section and a B section, or maybe you have exceptional learners, or any other tag that you might use, or, depending on your schedule, if you're on like a block schedule or a modified block, you might have different courses depending on the days in cycle. The term drop-down list, it's going to default to the term that is currently set for your school, and I will show you on the preferences during the live look. I'll show you the preferences where you would set the term that you are working in. Helpful tip: do you appear to be missing courses or students? Check the days in cycle, term, and tag drop-down list to apply the correct filters for attendance. Once you are on this main attendance page and you're getting ready to take attendance, a few things that you're going to note about this page in particular, some fun little tidbits. Your full roster for the selected course will appear on the left-hand side with student names. You might see photos and you might not. I'll show you in your preferences where you can toggle the photos on and off if you choose. Next to a student's name, you might see a little icon. In this case, we have an orange exclamation mark icon noting that there's a new comment for this student available. Otherwise, you're just going to see this little blue info icon. If you click that blue info icon, you're going to reveal additional student information, including contact information, teacher comments, and health information. You may also see a little pencil icon next to a student's name. The pencil icon would indicate that there's a special education record set in the office for that student, and you can view that student's accommodations by clicking that pencil icon. So a lot of handy little features that help communication, or help facilitate communication between the office and the teaching staff. So now the brass tacks: how do I mark a student as absent? You might see several of these absence reasons and tardy reasons here, like absence excused, absence unexcused, tardy excused, tardy unexcused. I'm not really sure what to pick. I'm just a teacher. I don't know why the kid is absent. I just know that I'm in my class and not seeing them here. What I like to explain to our new teachers especially is that attendance is a partnership, or keeping track of attendance is a partnership between the office and teachers. So oftentimes as teachers, you might not have the full picture of why a student is absent. You just need to indicate to the office that I am dealing with an absence here, and if you know why the student's absent, you need to verify that in the office. So your front office professional will be notified no matter which absence type you select. So you can select excused, unexcused, tardy excused, tardy unexcused, submit it to the office, and then if the office has had further communication with families, or maybe they know the reason the student was late to your class, or maybe they know the reason the student is absent, they will process your attendance indication from there. So for you, literally, it's mark the students absent. All students are going to by default be present, so you would have to change any student that is not present, and then click that attendance is correct button. If a family's notified the office of an absence or tardy for their student, the attendance radio button and the reason will be set. So there's a chance that if the office knows about the absence before you do, you might get to this page and you might see that some students have been counted absent. And if you see some students in your room that, according to the attendance, shouldn't be there, you can send them to the office or contact the office to let them know that a student is actually there, even though they've been processed absent in the office. Step 7, this is an optional step, and most of the schools that we have do not let teachers select the reason for the reasons that we just mentioned. You know, it's usually the office that has the bigger picture as to why a student's absent. Somebody in the office is making communication with home to make sure that the student is actually accounted for. But in some cases, small schools, the teacher might be the one that is responsible for that. If that's the case, this reason drop-down list, you'll be able to change it. If your school is not allowing teachers to select the reason, which I'd say is probably the case for 90% of you, you'll just be able to see this reason, but you won't be able to edit it. Once the absence is selected, you'll click that attendance is correct button, and that will send the attendance to the office for processing. I did mention your file preferences page. If you want to show those student photos or get rid of those student photos under file preferences, all the way at the bottom here in this general box, there's a checkbox to show student photos. If there's a check mark in there, you'll see the view that I just displayed on my screenshot over here. And if that is unchecked, this is unchecked, you'll just see a list of your students. So let's take a live look at entering attendance in JMC Teacher. I am on the classroom attendance, enter attendance page. Got all my students here on my list. It defaults to that first period of the day. If I click the icon next to a student name, I'm going to get some additional details about that student, including primary contact, name, address, and phone number in case I need to make contact there. If the student has a special education comment or accommodation or a link to an accommodation report, that will appear in the special ed comments section. And as you saw, I clicked on a student that had a pencil icon next to their name, which indicated that this student does have a special education comment. If I click on a student that just has the I info button, there is no special education comment for that student, but it's going to take you to the same information. I've got my primary contact, cell phone number and such, and the student schedule, which might be handy for high school and middle school teachers that don't have the same kids all day long. Also, for you high school, middle school teachers, there's a quick way to email all teachers of that student right from this page. So if you need to, communicate quickly to all kids of a specific, or all teachers of a specific kid, you can click that link. From here, I'm going to mark students as absent. And once my attendance is correct, I scroll down in the middle of this page to see my entire list. I should note that, there's two scrolls and one's hidden over here. So if I'm scrolling down over here, I can't see all of my list. But if I scroll the inside scroll bar, so to speak, I can see my full list. So you might have to scroll on the center part of your page. Click attendance is correct, and it'll let me know that my classroom attendance has been reported. You might notice one of my students has a little red cross next to their name. This is a medical emergency plan. Again, it's added to the office side. But if you see that red cross, and that red cross should appear a couple different places in JMC. If you ever see that, you click that and it will reveal the student's medical emergency plan. Any questions about attendance or submitting attendance? Not seeing any pop up. I think the last thing that I'd mention would be these classroom attendance reports, which can be kind of handy after the fact. You can view an attendance report for a specific student over a date range. So if you wanted to see how many times Nick has been gone from the beginning of the year to the current date, you preview that, and it's going to give you a list of the days and the list of the absences, and it'll actually show you the code for the absence reason listed down here as well. So that can be handy when you get closer to parent-teacher conference time if you need to review attendance for any of your students. You can also view for a period or for a day. So my recommendation for all of these reports in JMC is to poke around after a couple weeks just to see what data you can see and how valuable it might be for a variety of different purposes. Another just navigational piece in JMC, if you ever get lost or if you're on a page and I'm not really sure how to get back to my gradebook, this very top button, this home button, will orient you back to this home page, and then you can see your menu tree. All your items will be closed on it. As you work through the menu tree, we know that you can maybe get a couple layers deep in there, and if you get a couple menu tree items open at the same time, it expands this menu tree, and it's like, oh, this is overwhelming. I don't really know where I was or where I am or where I need to be. Click home, it resets everything, and you can get going from there. So if there aren't any questions, we're going to move on to lunch counts. Another communication tool. By reporting the lunch count for each of your classes to the office, educators using JMC Teacher assist the kitchen in meal preparation by providing crucial information on the number of students requiring milk or participating in a hot lunch program, enabling better planning and resource allocation. Entering a lunch count is very simple in JMC Teacher. You're going to head to attendance, edit lunch count, so we're right below where we were just before. So classroom attendance, edit lunch count. Again, this is going to default to the current day. So the current day will be listed in that day box. No reason to change it unless you had to go back in time for whatever reason. And then it's simple. How many students are eating school lunch? You just enter that number next to the field that's provided by your office staff. And these options or these items are provided in the office side. So whoever your food service professional is, if they can set what counts they need. So they might have meal, and then they might have an alternate meal. So they need to know who's eating the regular meal and who's eating the alternate meal. You provide those numbers, and then the office food service professional can run a spreadsheet to see the total number of lunches that they need to prepare for the day. Once you enter in the number, you click save, and your office staff are going to be able to pull that report. If you need to, if you screw up and I wrote 10, I need to write 11, you can, change that count and then click save again, and your newest information will overwrite what you had submitted to the office. So let's take a live look at entering lunch counts in JMC Teacher. Under classroom attendance, edit lunch counts. I've already did this once for the day, but let's say, all right, actually instead of 5, we've got 10. Actually a few more. 15. We're going to need 4 extra milks, and of course, Mr. V needs his baby Ruth. So click save. Lunch count has been reported to the office. I click OK, and this is going to hang out here for the rest of the day. So if I had to come back and edit it later, I can. Tomorrow, that count's going to reset, and I would do the same thing over again. I'm not seeing any questions about lunch counts. So we are ready to move on to discipline and communication. And we'll start with submitting a discipline referral, but one thing you're probably going to notice is that the discipline and communication modules work very similarly. They're set up almost identically. The biggest difference you're going to see is in the options that you can select in discipline versus in communication. They're free text fields. And I should start by declaring that when we're talking about discipline in JMC Teacher, we're talking about problem behaviors that you're observing of students and then actions that you're taking as a result of those problem behaviors. For communication, this is internal communication or documentation of student behavior that it's not a problem behavior, but it's something that you want to keep track of. So maybe you had a conversation with mom or dad, or maybe you had an interaction with the student that needs to be documented so you have a record of it. That's what communication is, and it's all stored in the office once it's submitted from JMC Teacher. So starting with submitting that discipline record, everyone benefits from an accurate record of discipline violations. Through JMC Teacher, a referral can be created and submitted to JMC Office for processing. A referral can then be accepted or modified by office professionals. In addition, a notification can be sent to the appropriate individuals regarding the infraction to keep them in the know. In JMC Teacher, you're going to go to discipline referrals. So discipline referrals. And step one, if this option is available, you can check that all students checkbox, and you're going to see all students in the school. The drop-down list right here is going to display all of the students that you have access to by default. So if they are in one of your courses, or if you're an advisor of a student, they'll be in this list. And if you want to see all students in your school, if that's available, you place a check mark here, and then you're going to be able to see all students on that drop-down list. Once you've selected the student that you need to create a record for, you're going to click the Add New button, and that's going to start the process of creating a new discipline referral. From here, it's just a matter of filling in fields. The date and the time field are auto-populated, as well as the referred by field. You can change the date. So if you're actually creating a discipline record for something that happened yesterday, you can change this date to yesterday's date, for example. You can change the time if you need to. The teacher, as long as you're logged in as a teacher, that referred by is going to be who you're logged in as. And then the problem behavior is predefined either by your office or by the state. And if you pull up that list, you're going to notice there are some problem behaviors that have stars next to them. The ones with the stars next to them are state-defined problem behaviors. All states collect discipline information from schools, from public schools, that is. You can use those state-defined problem behaviors, but if your school has additional problem behaviors like inappropriate language, that might be something that your school wants to keep track of. It's not something that any of the states are concerned with. So you might see that problem behavior listed without a star next to it. You can use either of them and leave it up to the office to decide what's going to get reported to the state and what's not. Speaking of state reporting discipline, I should note that just by submitting a discipline record, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are submitting it to the state. The only people that are going to see it are the office, and then anybody the office chooses to share it with. From here, you've got a number of drop-down list options to add details to that discipline behavior or that problem behavior, including the location, where did this happen, the severity, is it a major or minor? You can even enter incident location detail. So if it's, if it happened in the classroom, for example, you could say it happened in the back of the room, or it happened in the closet, or something, whatever the case is. The motivation, if you identified one, you can select that. And then the action is what you are doing as a result of the problem behavior. So, the action could be anything from detention to a warning, or whatever is defined by your office. So if you're not seeing the action that you're looking for, you can ask the office to add an action, and they can add one. You see action 1 and action 2. Sometimes there are multiple actions for a specific problem behavior. If you have 2 actions, you can add a second one. And then that last bit in there is the comments section. And just an administrative word of advice or a best practice, keep this to just the facts. Try not to narrate in a comment. No reason to use adjectives, because this information might be shared with a family down the road. It might be emailed to a primary contact. It might be emailed to the student. So whatever you keep in that field, make sure that it's representative of what you would want in an official record. Fun fact, a list of your previously entered pending and accepted discipline referrals appear in the pending discipline referrals and accepted discipline referrals boxes for easy reference at a later date. So once you have created all of these, or once you have indicate or filled out all of these items for a discipline record, you'd click that Send to Office button, and that's going to submit your discipline record to the office for review. It's up to the office then to either accept or reject a discipline referral, and I'll show you in our live look here what that's going to look like. So I am under discipline referrals. So discipline referrals, and the first thing I'm going to do is select a student. Notice these are just my students. But if I choose the all students checkbox there, I'm going to see all students in the school, much longer list. If that's available, each school, has a kind of a different approach to transparency of discipline. So some schools might just want teachers to see only the discipline records that they've submitted. Other schools would like everybody to be in the know on discipline, so they might allow this or they might not. Select the student. As mentioned, if there are any pending discipline referrals, they'll show up in this box, and if there are any accepted discipline referrals, these are prior actions, you can review those by clicking the accepted discipline referral, and the details will show up. You're not going to be able to edit anything here, but you can see who submitted this and some of the details to it. If you have a new discipline referral that you need to create, click that Add New button and fill out the problem behavior. So we've got, I'm just going to go down to my user defined and say inappropriate language. You'll notice I'm logged into an Iowa database, and we have 33 state defined discipline items that they want to keep an eye on, especially ones that involve violence and physical aggression. Those are usually tracked by the state. Okay, so where did the problem behavior occur? It happened in the classroom. The severity, this was a minor one, we're going to say. And if your school doesn't use majors and minors, you don't have to fill that out. You could leave it blank, leave it not specified. That's totally fine. Motivation, I don't know what motivates these kids, but if you know what motivates them, you can enter that in there as well, or you can leave that not specified. And then the action, what are you doing as a result of this problem behavior? Well, I conferenced with the student. We talked about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and they're on their way. Creating a record of this nature allows you to have a full picture of student behaviors when it comes time for conferences. So, if a student is exhibiting some behaviors that you would like your families to help you out with, if you pull up a discipline record of a student and you can see some specific referrals that you have made about a kid, you've got some concrete examples to share with families. So it just helps steer that conversation in a more positive way. Once the record is created, I'm going to click Send to the Office, and it shows up in my list as a pending discipline referral. And in JMC Office, they're going to receive a notification that a discipline referral has been created by a teacher. And I'm just going to bounce to show you in JMC Office what that looks like. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, I have a pending discipline referral. Here I can review it, and I can choose to email this to certain folks, primary contacts. This is in the office. Again, I can add more information to it, and then I can accept it or reject it. And once it's accepted, this is where it's going to turn this from pending discipline referral to an accepted discipline referral. And now I can review it, and this was the record that I created, but I can't edit it at this point. I am not noticing any questions, so I'm just going to keep going right along, and when I see questions, I'm going to stop. Otherwise, we are now recording student concerns. Concerns might be harsh. It might just be anything that you want to note of student behaviors. We have some schools that utilize our communication module for PBIS, positive behavior interactions, and that's totally acceptable as well. The communication records feature in JMC serves as a means to document staff, students, and family interactions for the purpose of promoting transparency and keeping all stakeholders informed. To share crucial information such as observations concerning a student's well-being with other teachers and administrators at your school, you can create a communication record in JMC Teacher. This record should include details about the conversation, such as the reasons for it and any action taken. Submitting your communication record to the school office ensures that you receive the necessary support in case any questions may arise. So you'll notice the communication module is set up very much like the discipline module. This is under communication submissions, in JMC Teacher, communication submissions. Step 1, I select that student from the drop-down list. Again, we've got the all students checkbox. Step 2, we add a new communication record. So click that add new button. And the biggest thing that you might notice is there are no drop-down lists anymore. So similarly to the discipline module, pending communication submissions and accepted communication submissions will be displayed in the appropriate boxes on the left-hand side. This allows you to access past communication history and gain valuable context and details to better understand the student's communication record. You can click a pending communication submission and still edit that record if you needed. And then from there, it's just a matter of entering the appropriate reason, action, and details. So a reason is, why are you creating this communication record in the first place? Made a phone call home, noted student progress, whatever it might be. The action as a result of the reason. So maybe Joe's been sleepy in class, might be a reason for creating a communication record. What action did you take because of the noted behavior? Well, I called mom and let her know that, hey, your son's been falling asleep in class the last couple of weeks. Might be something that there might be something going on at home, or there might be something that you would have a conversation with that kid about. And then in detail, you can provide any more details about that conversation in that detail field, and then click the send to office button when you are ready to submit that communication record. So let's take a live look at communication. So communication submissions, communication submissions right here. I grab a student and I have a current pending communication submission for this student. There is an accepted communication submission already for this student. I can review it, but I can't edit that again. That was an example of a PBIS communication submission, but let's say complaining of frequent headaches. Action, this just an FYI. Noticed Nick is complaining of headaches when he's been reading for a little while. I send that to the office. The office can review it. They would accept it the same way they would accept a discipline notification. And then once it's accepted, it would be part of that student's record. So this is something that, if any questions ever came up from a family, like, oh, I was never notified of this, or, whatever the case may be, you can point back to a communication log. And actually, we're going to talk about external communication here in a little bit, but I do want to show you how this communication and our external communication, the message center, work in tandem. If I were to choose a random student, say Nick, and make a communication home, say an email home to Nick's family, I can include that email in my communication log so that I can have an ongoing record that I've made this communication. So if Nick is indeed sleepy in class or he's complaining of headaches or whatever the case may be, I can not only send the communication, but I can have a record that I sent the communication to the families just in case it ever comes up. And it's a great tool that allows for transparency, and it helps clue in any administrator that might get pulled into the middle of a conversation, particularly a tough conversation between a family about a teacher. This allows the administrator to have a full vision of what has been communicated in the past. So it allows them to support you as a teacher a little bit better. Not seeing any questions about communication, so we're going to keep moving right along. And how is that as a segue into the message center and using the message center for external communication? So we talked about internal communication. Now we're talking about external communication, in particular, sending emails, texts, or both simultaneously in JMC Teacher's Message Center. JMC Teacher provides teachers with a user-friendly platform to communicate with families and students via email, text, or combined text and email messaging. Whether it's sending an email to the entire class or a quick text reminder about an upcoming test, JMC Teacher streamlines communication, making it simple to stay connected and up to date. To send messages to students and contacts who are part of your classes, activities, flex offerings, or more, simply navigate to the Message Center in JMC Teacher and get started with your communication efforts. Step 1, you'll select a radio button to identify the students and contacts you would like to receive your message, and then you will fill out the appropriate fields below. So if you chose by course, you can select a course. If you chose a random, you can select the individual student. Advisory group, it's sending a message to your advisees. Activities, if you are a coach and you want to send a message to the football team, if you're associated with the football team through the activities module in JMC Office, you can send a message to that activity. The flex offering is not something that we're going to talk about in this presentation, but we do have a flex scheduler for MTSS scheduling. And this is a handy tool for communicating to families if a student is a part of a flex offering as well. And then by tags, you can communicate to tagged students if the office has tagged those students. Choose the type of message you'd like to send, email, text message, or both simultaneously, and then place a check mark in the appropriate checkbox to identify who should receive your message. So if it's the primary contact of the student, place a check mark here. If you just want the student to receive your email or text, you'd place a check mark here. And if you want both, you'd place check marks in both. Helpful tips, select the both message primary contact and message students if you'd like to send the information to both families and students. As I mentioned, once you've selected the students and the message type and who should receive your message, you click that OK button, and it's going to let you know the number of contacts that are about to be communicated with. From there, depending on your message type, you'll fill out the appropriate fields highlighted below, and then click the send button to send your message, or click the reset button to reset all of these parameters and start over again. So let's take a live look at sending emails, texts, or both in JMC Teacher, and I'll explain some of the benefits of doing so. I'm going to go to Message Center. And first off, a major benefit is being able to send a text message to a large group. So we know that most folks, or many folks anyway, communicate best through text message. And first off, creating groups of your students and families in your personal phone might not be appropriate, and it might not even be feasible by your carrier. So using the message center will allow you to send text messages to a large number of people at one time. So you could select all the kids and all of the parents in a full course to send a text to. And, I've got 10 records in this case, but you could have 25 students and, 25 or 50 parents that you're sending messages to. Another benefit of sending messages through the message center, we know that Students communicate via text message, but we also know that, it's kind of a gamble sending a text message to a student with, what is appropriate contact. And in the case of JMC, if you're sending a text message, the student's going to receive it as a text message, but it isn't coming from your personal phone, and there's a record created of the communication that was made. So if there's ever a question about what message was sent and appropriateness of contact and that sort of thing, you can review in JMC Office the specifics of the message sent, who sent it, when it was sent, who received it, and the contents of the message. So it just promotes that greater transparency as well. Another benefit, I would say, of the message center is it's one-way communication. And some folks say, like, well, I want them to be able to communicate back with me. And that's great. I would include how you want them to communicate back with you in the body of the message itself. And then it's on them. Or more importantly, if I send a text message to 25 people, I don't want somebody to reply all in that text message. It's all of a sudden it turns into my phone going berserk the rest of the day, and half of those notifications I don't need. So it keeps your families from receiving unnecessary notifications. It keeps your phone from blowing up, and it gets the information out there in the method that your students and your families are going to best receive it. Those are just a few highlights. Any questions about using the Message Center in general, the benefits? I think using it is fairly simple. It's just a messaging platform, but the utility is invaluable, I'd say. With that, we're going to get into grading here. Since this is going to be a recorded webinar, normally right now, I know we're about 45 minutes in or so, I'd take a little bit of a break and allow folks to stretch their legs, because the grading portion, we do go into quite a bit of detail. But I want this to be one recording that's a succinct record of everything in JMC Teacher. And there are a couple different styles of grading. So we're going to take a little bit of time to go through what we call traditional grading with points and percentages in JMC Teacher, but we're going to get into the standard-based grading stuff. So take me about 15 minutes to go through this style of grading. If you are an elementary teacher and you guys use a standard-based report card, this might not be your thing. And we might have, we'll have another section on that here in just a second, and vice versa. So you can use this as your break if you need to. So grading with points and percentages in JMC Teacher starts with defining grade cutoff percentages. In JMC Teacher, grade cutoffs are utilized to determine letter grades for a course, which are based on the scores earned by students on assignments. You can either determine the lowest percentage for each grade on your scale, or utilize default cutoffs set in JMC Office to establish grade cutoffs for each of your courses. Once you've established grade cutoffs for one course, simply copy them to all applicable courses to save time establishing cutoffs. And with grade cutoffs defined, JMC will automatically calculate course grades as you enter student scores, providing updated results for students without the need for manual calculations. So if your school is reporting course grades at the end of the term, and you want to keep track of assignments and scores in JMC Teacher, you're going to start by establishing grade cutoffs, and you'll use the scores module to do so. So under scores, grade cutoffs, select a course from your course list, and then you could either manually add all of your grade cutoffs, or if your school has a set grade scale, you would add the default cutoffs from the office, and then you're done. So it's just one click. And many schools will have kind of a set 93% and above is an A, 60% and below is an F, or below 60% is an F, I should say. And then, they have each increment defined in between. So if your school has like a set one that they use, that's where the default cutoffs would come in. That's set by your school. It's not set by us. But you can add individual cutoffs if your cutoffs are a little bit different from what the school uses, or if your school doesn't have set cutoffs. This is something that you do once a year. It's probably at the beginning of the year when you do it. You copy it to all classes, and then you're done. It probably takes 5 minutes in total. To do so, to add your grade cutoffs, you'll add a grade cutoff here. You click that link, and then you'll establish the minimum number needed to earn that grade in the cutoff field. So for example, an F is the lowest value. A 0 is going to get you an F. So the lowest value should always be represented in that cutoff field. If the lowest A is 93%, you would have an A here, and in your cutoff would be 93%. Once you've established a cutoff, you click save. It'll add it to your list. We'll get to the point value stuff here in just a second, but you click save, it'll add it to your list, and your full list should look something like this. So that's the end goal. You'd have every grade defined along with the lowest value here. On the right-hand side of the page, you're going to notice this point value grade scale. The only reason that you would ever check that is if you are utilizing a non-percentage based scale, such as competency-based gradebook. If you're using the scores gradebook, you're most likely not using this point value grade scale. So no reason to touch that checkbox. Just leave it unchecked if you're just using traditional points and percentage grading. From there, once you've set your grade cutoffs for one of your courses, you can copy those grade cutoffs to either all of your courses or to specific courses. So if you teach algebra and you have a certain set of cutoffs for your algebra courses, and you teach algebra 3 times and you teach geometry 3 times throughout the day, you can copy the algebra cutoffs to the 3 algebra courses and copy the geometry course cutoffs to the geometry courses. Click that copy button, and here you can either select all, or if you are using a Windows machine, you can click the control key. You'd hold control down and click the specific courses that you want to copy to. Or if you're using a Mac, you would hold the command key as you click those courses, and that allows you to select multiple courses. Once you've got your courses selected, you click OK, and that will copy your grade cutoffs to those selected courses. So let's take a live look at grade cutoffs in JMC Teacher. I'm under scores, grade cutoffs. Here I've got my first course selected, and you'll notice I already have mine filled out. I'm going to go down to a course that I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of all of my cutoffs for this course. Okay, so if you're coming here for the first time, your courses they don't have cutoffs defined. If I click this add default cutoffs link, as long as this is entered in the office side, this will automatically populate, and that's all I'd have to do. I'd either have to do that for each of my courses, or I could copy, select all, click OK, and then I'm done. If I needed to define each of these myself, because the office doesn't have default cutoffs, I click the add grade cutoff, and I always start it at the bottom of the list. Start with the lowest value, F, which is the lowest cutoff is 0. Click save. Now it added it to the list. Not quite done yet because I still have a D-, which my lowest D- is 60. Save. Add cutoff. D. Lowest D is 63. Save. And so on and so forth until all of my values were filled. That's why the default cutoffs are so handy. If you've got those set in JMC Office, if everybody uses the same ones, it's pretty quick and easy to do that. I would then copy to each of my classes, or like I mentioned below, okay, those are my social studies cutoffs. I can command click since I'm on a Mac and find all my social studies, and there's social studies and there's social studies. And then I would just copy to those specific courses. So I held command because I'm on a Windows. If you're on a Mac, other way around, I'm on a Mac, so I held command. If you're on a Windows, you'd hold control as you click. Any questions about cutoffs? Let me know. Otherwise, we're going to keep on motoring. And I hear somebody has the question, even though you haven't asked it, what about half points and rounding and things like that? So if I had a 62 and a half, but I have 63, and that is, 62 and a half is not going to calculate to a 63, is it? I'd really want it to. How do I make my grades round up a percentage? I'm going to show you this a little bit later on in the scores, but under file preferences, you can have this checkbox to round percentages to determine grades. And then once it hits that 10th plateau, on the I'm sorry, the 100th plateau, so like 63.5. Yeah, I guess it would be the 10th plateau. It'll bump it up to the 64. So if that's where your grade cutoff is, that's how it's going to calculate the grade. Okay, so once your cutoffs are set, the grade book, the scores grade book, or the traditional grade book is made up of categories and assignments. You'd start by creating categories in the grade book. The scores section offers customizable categories that allow for grouping assignments together. These categories can be named based on assignment type, unit, standard, or any other relevant grouping criteria that aligns with your teacher's needs or with your needs. Additionally, you've got weights and calculation options that can be assigned to the categories to configure the gradebook according to your grading philosophy. By defining categories, you can effectively organize your gradebook and streamline the grading process within JMC Teacher. So we're going to head to JMC Teacher, head to scores, categories, and assignments, and this is where we're going to define all of our categories and assignments. Make sure we have that proper course selected. So that first step is select a course. Step 2, we're going to click the add category link. Step 3, you name a category, and some teachers just want to have one category and have all of their assignments and calculate using total points, and that's totally very easily doable. So other teachers like to have multiple categories, and they might have a category for units. They might have categories for assessment types. That's totally up to you, and then you can calculate based on weighted categories, or you can still calculate based on total points. But you have the category name, assign a color, and that just helps further distinguish your assignments on that scores page, which I'll show you here in just a minute. Step 5, you'll enter a number in the weight field of a category in relation, and that sets the weight of the category in relation to the other categories. So easiest way to probably think about it is by percentages. So if you wanted to have 50% of your courses weighted by your test, your course grade is going to come from your test, 50% of it. The other 25% is going to come from assignments, 25% is going to come from group work. You would have 50, 25, and 25 as weights. And then you decide within those categories whether or not you want the assignments to be weighed by points, or if you want them all of equal value. So a lot of teachers that I work with will have a variety of assignments within a category, and let's say they have a category of tests, and they have 5 tests that they give out, and each of the tests has a different point value, but they want all of those to weigh equally, all of those tests to weigh equally for that test category. They might choose that equal option from here. So here are your options for the assignment weights within a category. You could have equal, which would be all assignments, regardless of point value, carrying the same weight toward the category average. By points would be the total points of the assignment would contribute to the weight for that assignment. So for example, a 100-point assignment would be weighed 10 times as much as a 10-point assignment. And then a user defined allows you to specify the weight for each individual assignment. So the user defined is a great way if you would like to define formative assessments as carrying no value, and then your summative assessment carrying 100% of the value within a category. You could have a category named after a standard or a unit. All of your formative practice assignments leading up to it might not contribute to the course grade, but then your summative assignment is what contributes to the course grade. You'd use the user-defined category to do that, or that user-defined assignment weight to do that. So let's take a live look at creating a basic category. So it's under scores, categories, and assignments. And I already have some categories created. Let's see if I can go to a course that doesn't have any here. And just to show you like philosophically where I would stand, tests, homework, group work, those are my 3 categories. And let's just say tests, homework, and group work are the categories that I use for every class that I teach. I could create those categories and then copy those categories to my other classes. And then I wouldn't have to, create those categories from scratch every time. So I could have, as long as I have the category defined and the weight defined, I can copy over. So that's a nice little time saver. Click the category and I can edit the category details. I can also delete the category from here. So I'm just going to delete these categories that I copied over. And I'll start fresh here. I'm going to add a category, and let's say I want to, this is going to be unit 1. And I'm going to give the category color red and the weight. Let's say I'm not going to use weights for my categories. I'm going to use total points. I just save at this point. I'm going to change the radio button to total points, and then instead of weighing my categories, now it's going to use the total points. I can still use categories to group my assignments, but the final grade is going to be calculated by those total points. So it's up to you. You can calculate using weights, using total points, whatever makes sense for you. We do have some special calculation options in here to pay attention to. You can drop a certain number of scores from a category. So if you wanted to drop that lowest score from a category, if you wanted to calculate an average using the most recent scores, the decaying average is something that probably isn't used so much anymore, but you can apply more weight to the most recent assignments. So you could say the most recent assignments count as 80% of the grade, while the previous 3 assignments count as 20% of the grade. You can also make a category a standalone category. So if you are weighing participation, you just want to give 1 participation grade, you can make it a standalone category with a point value. Or if it's an extra credit category, meaning the assignments aren't going to count against a student's grade, you could choose that checkbox there. Still not seeing any questions, so I'm going to pop over to just explain those special category options in the live look. Creating assignments. Once you've established categories in JMC Teacher, you're all set to incorporate assignments into your gradebook. Assignments encompass various coursework, including daily work, quizzes, tests, and projects, which are graded and recorded to determine a student's grade percentage. Simply select a category to house the assignment, assign a maximum score, set a due date, and you're good to go. This straightforward process allows you to efficiently track and calculate student grades within JMC's gradebook feature. We're going to head back to that same page that we're on, scores, categories, assignments, and click the name of a category to begin. Once we have clicked the name of the category, for example, tests, I'm given the option to add an assignment. I click that add assignment link to enter the assignment information under the selected category would include the assignment name, the max score for the assignment, the date that it's due, and I can sort how those assignments appear on my list as well. The assignment description is for internal use only. Students aren't going to see this. Families aren't going to see this, but if you wanted a note for your own good, you could throw it in the assignment description there. The benchmarks button, teachers can calculate assignment scores to a standard-based report card. So if you are inclined to use the scores gradebook to keep track of student progress and report to a standard-based report card, you can still use this gradebook to do that. It just requires the extra step of linking the benchmark to the assignments that you are selecting. But if you are reporting course grades, you're not going to do that. You're not going to use this benchmarks button. And if it were me personally and I were using a gradebook to track student progress towards standards, I would use the competency-based gradebook, which we're going to cover here in just a second. So know that the option is available. It might not be the best option for tracking student progress toward standards though. So I click save, want to save my assignment, and it will add it to the list in the category. So let's take a live look at creating assignments. So I just created my Unit 1 category, and as long as I click that Unit 1, I can come over here and add an assignment. My assignment name, I'm again using total points here, so my assignment name in Unit 1 is going to be Homework Assignment 1, and the max score, 10 points. Due date, it's going to be due next Friday. And then I click save. Oh yes. Let's go cancel. I cancel. I've got this set up for a different gradebook actually, so I'm going to delete that category. I'm going to go to my course that I have set up for using points and percentages. Add assignment. Assignment name is going to be, okay, so this is tests. This is going to be my Shakespeare tests. Out of 50 points, due next Friday, click save, and it's going to add it to the list over here. If I needed to come back and edit any details, I just click the assignment name, and I can come over here and I can change the point value. Same with the category. If I needed to change the weight of a category, if I wanted to change the color of a category, I could do so. You'll notice I have tests. All of my tests are red. My homework assignments are green, and my group work is yellow. And this is going to make it easier on the gradebook to stand out. So if I go here, you'll notice I've got all my red tests, my green assignments, and my yellow group projects. Any questions on adding assignments? We're going to get into scoring here next. So I teased my way to it. Now we're getting to scoring student work. JMC Teacher goes on basic gradebook features, offering streamlined score entry, showing one student at a time, the ability to mark assignments as late, automatic calculations of gradebook or grade percentages based on entered scores, improved communication with families through notes added to individual scores, and the option to publish comprehensive student progress reports for easy viewing in JMC Family, all with the convenience of checking on a student's progress with a single click. So we're going to head to scores, assignment scores. After we've defined our assignments on that categories and assignments page, we're going to head to scores, assignment scores. We're going to select a course from that course drop-down list to begin editing those score results. Fun fact, student names and assignment scores are presented in a grid view similar to a spreadsheet with student names listed vertically on the left and assignments along the top, allowing you to view a significant amount of information in one space. You can customize the look of that information under File Preferences in this assignment scores box, you can assort your assignments by date or by category, and that's how they will appear on your list. You can go from oldest to newest. You can choose to show all students or just show active students only. Um, these color coding scores are going to come up here in a little bit, but we have some alpha codes that you can use, like exempt or X for exempt, H for handed in, LI for late included, LX for late exempt, MI for missing included. The missing included and the late included will turn the assignment into a 0. And it's just going to let your families know and your students know that this is a 0 because it was late, or this is a 0 because it was missing. A missing score just indicates that the student still needs to turn it in, but it isn't going to count against the student. A late exempt might be a late assignment turned in, but it's exempt from being held against the student, so it's not going to count it as a 0. Any of the exempt categories are not going to hold the assignment against the student. It's going to be, just as if the assignment weren't scored. Pending, you got an assignment that's handed in and it's awaiting a scoring. You can put a pending in there so that if you publish the grade book before families got a chance to, or before you got the chance to enter the result in there, families aren't going to see a blank score and wonder, hey, what's going on? Why didn't you turn this in? Or why isn't this scored yet? You throw that pending in there to let families know that I'm getting to it. I just haven't had the time yet. Incomplete work, that I for incomplete is not going to turn it into a 0 or anything. It just indicates that it's incomplete. And then your low assignment score threshold is just going to turn anything into, so if it's anything below 50%, it's going to show up as red. And that's more of an indicator for me. It's not going to show up as red in your families, or your student portal. It's just to let me know that, hey, we're dealing with a few low scores here. If you click a student's name on that grade book, you're going to see the exact view that a family sees. So this is a student progress report that includes the present grade, all of the assignments, and the scores the student received on those assignments. So if you're curious what information your families are going to see when you click that publish button, this is what it's going to look like. You can also print this progress report right here from JMC Teacher as well, and it's just by clicking the student's name in that grid view. Again, we have those info buttons and the pencil icons, and then the red cross next to a student name, similar to how it was displayed on the attendance page. And from there, you click a score field on a student's row to edit that score information. So you can either enter a numeric value up to 2 decimal places, or you can enter a special score code to score the assignment. And those score codes are those codes that were on the preferences page that I showed you there. Fun fact, if you enter a numeric value that exceeds the maximum points possible for an assignment, a pop-up message will notify you that you entered a score greater than the maximum score. Simply click the OK button and you have 2 options. You can either adjust the score to fit within the maximum points, or you can choose to keep the score as is, considering the extra points as extra credit. Step 4, and you can do this whenever you deem necessary, you click that publish button to make those scores for the current assignments visible in JMC Student and JMC Family, and it will publish up through the current date. So that's where it's going to look at those dated assignments. And if you have post-dated assignments, so let's say I had an assignment due in a week and I click publish, that assignment is not going to show up in JMC Student and JMC Family. It would consider it as having not happened yet. So let's take a live look at scoring student work and review those quick link options. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do on this grade book here. So I'm under scores, assignment scores. Okay. Choose my course here. And then, as mentioned before, if I click a student's name, I'm going to get the progress report, the current progress report that this is what families would see. I can print this out as well. You'll notice because of my color coding, my categories, test categories are in red, homework is in green, group work is in yellow. And if I wanted to change or reorganize how these are displayed, currently they're displayed by date. I could display them by category. And then if I go back to my scores page, now it's going to show all of my tests grouped together, all of my homework grouped together, and all of my group projects grouped together. So it's up to you as to how you want to organize your gradebook, and we give you plenty of those options in file preferences. So take a look at file preferences to see how you would like to organize your gradebook. So from here, scoring student work, here's this Shakespeare test that I just added. Pretty simple. It's out of 50 points. I'm going to say, all right, 45. I hit enter, and it's going to go right down to the next. So I can quickly enter results for all students. And I'll show you what happens if I entered 51, which is greater than the maximum score of 50 points possible. The student earned extra credit. I click OK, and it's going to calculate it as extra credit unless I change it. And if you've noticed over here on the right-hand side, these percentages and grade values are according to the grade cutoffs that I established right at the beginning of this whole process. So, the students got an 83% and a B. They get 50 out of 50 on a test. That grade bumped it up slightly, not all the way up to a B plus, but we're getting closer there. Find somebody that's right on the borderline. An A minus, that might do it. Well, it'll definitely do it the other way. So if they totally bomb this test, now they drop down to an 87%, which is a B plus. It also notified me that this score is below a 50%, so it shows it in red as defined on my preferences as well. Over here on the far right-hand side, you might notice that checkbox there with the locked. Teachers are always in control of what grade that they want to assign to a student. So if we get a kid that's on that borderline there, the student, they're at a B, they just aced this test. It's getting to be grading time or that report card time. I'm going to bump them up to a B plus, and then that check mark appears letting me know that I overrode the grade that was calculated. If I want to return to the calculated grade, I remove the check mark, and it's going to return to the calculated grade as is set by the grade cutoffs. Once my grades are entered, or once I've gotten to a point where I want to allow my families to see, I click the publish button, and it's going to give me a notification. Are you sure you want to publish for this course? Because you have scored assignments dated in the future. The course grade displayed on the assignments page may not match the progress reports families see online. So I click OK, and that's what that's telling me is I've got an 829 test in there, and I've got a 1024 group project in there. So if I were a family and I logged into my gradebook, all I'm going to see are these 4 assignments that don't have a date next to them because it's going to publish up through the current date. So as long as that date happened, so if my Shakespeare test said 8/20 instead of 8/29, it would publish. Just gives you the ability to control what you would like your families to see and what you want to keep hidden for the current time being. And it's going to let you know the number of records that were published as well, any missing scores that were published, any late scores that were published. Some of the bells and whistles on this page. On the far right side, you can choose to show one student at a time, and then I can change my student. So if I wanted to just, grade one student here, I can choose this. I'm going to go back to show all students, and it's going to show all students. I'm using the quick links on the right side to do that. I can also show one assignment at a time. It's going to work similarly. So click show one assignment, and I can change the assignment up here, and I've got all of my students and just my one assignment. Let me go back to show all assignments. A feature on here that I really like is the score note. So if I highlight a result, so like this one right here, I can edit the score note, and then I can edit the note and apply it to this student. You'll notice that there's a little star next to that indicating that there is a score note for that assignment. And if I were to look at the progress report for that student, this is what families would see. They're going to see he didn't turn this assignment in, even though it's marked handed it in for whatever reason. Maybe I should change that then. It wouldn't be HI, it would be M for missing. So that would probably be a little bit more accurate. Fill score column. This is another one that many of my teachers like. Let's say I had everybody do this assignment, this group project, and everybody that participated in it got 50. So I'm going to fill the score column with a 50, and I can decide, do I want to, do empty scores, or do I want to replace all? I'm just going to replace all for this demonstration, and it's going to make everything a 50 because I filled the score column. I can still go back and change values as I see fit or as I need to, but that's an efficient way of entering all information at one time. Just extra little pieces that help speed things up for you. I think that pretty much covers the scores gradebook. We're going to have an end of term webinar here a little bit later on as we get into October, but something of note, once you've done some scoring in the gradebook, your end of term grades are going to go to the edit course grades page. They're going to be listed right here for each of your courses. And this is the grade that's going to go to the report card. And this is where you would send the grades to the report card. If you're not using a JMC gradebook, if you're using a paper pencil gradebook and you just want to assign letter grades at the end of the term so that you can get them on a report card, you can go to the edit course grades page and select a course, and then you can just hand enter the grades as well. So, this is where I could come in and say, oh, that's an A, this kid got a C, and just go right down the list. And we do have a fill grade column, so if everybody got C's, I can fill them all with C's, and then maybe change the one or two that didn't get C's, for example. So that's on the edit course grades page. This is where you would also send grades to the office. That's more of an end of term sort of deal, but since I was here, I figured I'd show you how that populates. So if there aren't any questions about the traditional gradebook, we are going to shift gears and talk about standard-based grading and standard-based assessment in JMC Teacher. So everything that we talked about up to this point is about course grades. This is if you're going to end the term reporting out on individual standards. I'm going to show you two ways to do this, including a gradebook option for tracking student progress throughout. This first option is more of the summative approach to entering results onto that report card. So you're at the end of the term, you want to interact with your report card, or you could do this at any time, doesn't necessarily have to be at the end of the term, but this is just you marking those report cards individually. Editing and submitting a standard-based assessments report card for the student at the end of the term is a snap in JMC Teacher. Simply enter assessment results and comments on each student's report card from JMC Teacher to communicate standard-based proficiencies. Then submit your report cards to the office and sit back while they are delivered to students and families. To get started editing the report card, log into JMC Teacher and head to Edit Assessments Report Card for a Student. So Edit Assessments Report Card for a Student. Step 1, we'll select the student from that first drop-down list up there. Step 2, we'll select the appropriate form from the form drop-down list. So that's If your standard-based report card has multiple pages, you probably have a page 1 and a page 2 listed on those forms. They'll be separate forms. Each page will be a separate form. Step 3 will select the course section or grade level from the course grade drop-down list, and that will allow you to edit the standards that are associated with a specific course. The first question, or many questions come up here like, oh, I can see my report card, but it won't let me edit any of the results. So here you can see in this example, I have ELA, and the ELA has little colored check boxes next to it. The science does not have any colored check boxes. Well, it's because I have the ELA course selected. In order to edit the science, I would have to change the course to science, and then I'd be able to edit the science grades. Step 4, select the appropriate subject from the subject area drop-down list. For the most part, this is going to be the same, unless you are a multi-grade level teacher, you probably don't have to change this. And then step 5, you'll select the appropriate term from the grading term drop-down list to view results that are either calculated from a JMC gradebook, or you can begin editing those results manually. So one of the advantages of using the competency-based gradebook, which we'll talk about here in just a second, is you can keep track as you go, and then those results will automatically populate to the report card. So once it comes time for the end of the term, you don't have any additional steps to carry out. You don't have to go in there and add those results by hand. Those results will already be there. Step 7, it's an optional step. If your report card contains space for entering comments, you can enter comments in that comment field. One thing I'll say about the comment field is what you're looking at on this page is essentially the same as looking at a piece of paper. So if you type in comments on here, you have the space that is shown right here. If you continue to type beyond that space, it's not going to be included in the printed version of the report card. Fun fact, the page auto saves, so no need to worry about saving your changes as long as you have a connection. You'll see the timestamp update, and I'll show you that in the live look. Step 8, repeat the above steps for all students of the class. Step 9, once it gets time to the end of the term to send those grades to the office, you'll click that send grades for all quarters to the office, quick link, and then the office will have your grades ready to go. So let's take a live look at editing an assessments report card for a student. I'm under edit assessments report card for a student. And you'll notice there's nothing here. It's because I haven't selected a term yet. As soon as I select a term, then my report card will show up. And I've got ELA selected, so I'm just going to stick with that. I'm going to go to quarter 1. Now my report card appears. I've got a student, I've got a form, I've got a course selected. As I mentioned before, I've got ELA right here. This is the course ELA. If I make a change, it auto saves, and I get a little notification there of the date and time that it auto saved. If I wanted to edit science results, I'd have to change to science. And now since I've changed my course or grade, you'll notice the little colored triangles there indicating that I can edit these results. One final piece that I'll mention, I'm going to go back to ELA, and one of my boxes has a little green triangle next to it for this standard, and what that's indicating is the result is coming from calculated gradebook result. So I actually demoed my competency-based grading with this standard for this report card. So once I jump into competency-based grading, I'll show you how I'm tracking this result and why this box is populating for this student here. If it were time to send grades to the office, I can click that quick link on the right hand side, and it's going to send my report card to the office for the student. Any questions on this? So At the end of the term, I come in here and I can edit report cards for an individual student. We do have a faster way of doing this that I'll just show in the live look here. I can edit assessments for a course or grade. And, it's kind of doing the same thing, but I can grab the course, I can grab the term, so first quarter, and here's ELA, and here's my standard. And I've already entered results for this standard, but I'm going to pick the standard that I haven't entered results in yet. Okay, so this one, I can mass fill. So I'm just going to change that to a 4. And let's say everybody's got a 4 for this standard. I'm going to fill score column, and all of those results populate. I can change the 1 or 2 and then click save. And that's just a faster way to populate a standard-based report card. The note that I would make is this comment section right here is internal only. So if you enter a comment on this page, if you're choosing to enter your grades this way, this comment is not going to appear on the standard-based report card. It's just for your notes only. The comment that would appear is on this report card. So I can go through my list of students, and I should have results from these standards for all my kids. Now that student was new, and I haven't attached a report card for him. So any questions about that? And if not, we're going to jump into a gradebook option for keeping track of student progress of standards. So take student achievement reporting and data collection to the next level by calculating competency-based grading, or CBG, results directly to a standard-based report card. Teachers reporting summative results to a standard-based report card can use the CBG module to calculate formative assessment data to easily report the summative results. Track student progress and keep all stakeholders informed as you go by calculating those CBG results to a standard-based report card. Calculating summative results from a competency-based grading takes some basic setup. Defining proficiency scales, the first thing that you would do. Adding an assessment area is the second thing, and then adding a formative assessment is the first thing. And I'll show you how those 3 basic setup steps will lead you to success in adding results. So I'm on the competency-based grading define formative assessment page. Step 1, I'm going to choose the course that I'm dealing with here. So there's my ELA course. And the first thing I'm going to do is define those my proficiency scale. Similarly to the course grades, I can add default results from the office by clicking that quick link if they exist. Otherwise, I'd have to define my proficiency scale for each of those courses. And if I'm adding default results, I can skip these next several steps. So the first step would be to select the number of results. Fun fact, the number of results refer to how many proficiencies are in your proficiency scale. For example, if your proficiency scale is meets, developing, beginning, and incomplete, you would select 4 in the number of results. Helpful tip, I'd add 1 extra result to include an exempt option on your proficiency scale to define a result which won't count in proficiency calculations. So I'll show you the utility of that in a live look, but in a scale such as this, where we have meets, developing, beginning, and incomplete, I would select 5 rather than 4 because I want to keep space for that exempt option. So step 3, now we have to define each of those proficiencies right here. So this first one, I click the edit link next to the result to begin defining the result. Then I'd select the color that I want to associate with that. Helpful tip, unique colors for each proficiency result make reviewing student progress reports easier, as families can look for patterns of colors to understand their student learning progress. For whatever reason, wrapping your head around numbers in a standard-based system, and there are a number of reasons why you would go to a standard-based system for reporting proficiency. There's a barrier of understanding for families. A lot of family members especially, if you graduated the same year that I graduated, you were very much a part of a traditional educational background. So you're used to those letter grades, and I'm now getting symbols and numbers instead, and I don't know what those mean. Even if I don't know what the numbers mean, I know what colors mean intuitively. For whatever reason, here in the United States, green is usually associated with good and red is usually associated with bad. I think it's a stoplight thing. So I was always a big stoplight guy in setting my proficiency scales. Green, yellow, red. So there was three proficiencies. Green meant good, yellow was somewhere in between, and red was like, hold up, we have some work to do. So those unique colors help make those progress reports make a little bit more sense for your families. Step 5, you'll enter an abbreviation up to 3 letters or fewer in that name column, and that's what's going to be used to describe your proficiency. So this oftentimes is what's going to appear on that report card. Could be a letter, could be a number, could be up to 3 letters. The value is the ranking order for your proficiency scale. So even if you're not using points to calculate, you still have to tell the software which one is quote unquote better than the one below it. So if you've got 4 results, top one's going to be 4. Step 7, and even if you add default cutoffs, you're still going to have to go in here and define the standard-based result definition, which is what's listed on your report card. So it's just a matter of matching up this drop-down list with the name and the value that you've got here. Step 8, enter a description in the result in the descriptions field here to correspond with your competency-based result. So what does MET mean? What does a 4 mean? Well, it means you're meeting grade level standard. So this is an important communication tool. So when your families are looking at one of those formative assessment reports, they can make a little bit more sense out of it, and they know exactly what those levels mean. They've got the color, they've got the name, they've got the value, and then they've got the description to rely back on when they're trying to figure out if their students know what they want them to know or can do the skills that they want them to be able to do. A few helpful tips. Place a check mark in the exempt checkbox to create an option for an incomplete or insufficient evidence or not turned in result to communicate the information to all stakeholders without being punitive. So, those that are making the shift from kind of a traditional letter grade points and percentages system to a competency-based system have kind of recognized that, if we include zeros in our grading, we might be misrepresenting what the student knows and can do. So this exempt category allows you to note that a score is missing or you have insufficient evidence or whatever the case may be, but it's not going to calculate that result to the end of term standard-based report card. The other piece, that you might use that exempt category for is if a student tested out of a skill. So I think of a kindergarten teacher, and you have assessed whether or not the student knows their letters A through F. And I've got a student that knew A through F. They can write it, they can see it, they can sound it out, they can say it, and I don't need to assess them anymore, but I still need to assess their classmates. I can use this exempt option to show parents like, hey, I'm no longer assessing this student because they're finished with this, and then the result that we have on the report card is going to reflect that first proficiency mark. Speaking of proficiency, if we have a level of proficiency, we can include a value for proficiency target, and that sets the result as the proficiency target that's used in conjunction with the proficiency target number calculation option. And more on that here in just a second. The calculation options in the competency-based grading module are really what make it. It's providing a more equitable and ethical end of term result on the report card than maybe points and percentages can. And the reason I say that is, in a formative assessment world, really what you're trying to do is show student progress throughout the term, and where they started might be light years behind where they end up. And you really want to show that growth, and you don't want to hold what they did at the beginning of the term when they didn't know the thing against the student. What really matters to you is by the end of the term, they have these competencies or they have these skills. So whereas a points and percentages world might value a homework assignment that they did in the first week of the term the same as it would value an assignment at the end of the term, in competency-based grading, we can use these calculation options to really ethically reflect on the report card at that end of term what the grade should be based on the growth that the student made throughout the term. And I'll get into those calculation options when we start adding items that are formatively assessed. Step 9, we'll click the update link next to a row after we've defined the row. And then the step 10, the optional step, is you can copy this proficiency scale to all of your classes at one time. So odds are you're using a proficiency scale for all of your classes, the same proficiency scale, the same letters, the same definitions. You copy that to all classes, then you really only have to create this one time. So let's take a live look at defining your proficiency scale. I am in competency-based grading, define formative assessments. And I've already created this for my ELA course. Remember, I have already assessed this standard. It was already on my report card, actually. I'm going to try to find a course that maybe I haven't done anything with. Yeah. So if you're getting here for the first time, this is going to be blank. So you could either add the default results from the office, and if they've been entered, it's going to populate this automatically, everything except for this column. If you're using this to talk to a standard-based report card, you'd need this column filled out. So I'd still have to go in here and click edit, and I would have to, that's a 4, that's meeting. I'm going to do the same for each of those. And if there's that, so now I'm done. I can copy to all of my classes and everything will copy over. Or if I get here and it's at 0 and I have to define this myself for the first time, I can go add the number of results that I need, and then I'd go into each row, click edit, color, met, what's the value? It's a 4. Standard-based result definition. Is it the proficiency target? Yes. What does that mean? It means meeting grade level standard, and then update the row. Then I'd come down and do the next one. So this is going to be yellow, dev for developing. And so on and so forth until they're all defined. Just going to go back here and reset this. So that's really what the proficiency scale is all about. I'm going to get into the items that we are assessing, including the assessment area and formative assessment here next. So a couple, it takes you about 5 minutes to set them all up. Adding assessment areas, and this is where you're essentially grouping your standards together. So I've got my ELA, and my assessment areas in the ELA might be, I'm assessing a reading informational text and reading fictional text and writing and speaking and listening and language. I might have 5 assessment areas. If I just wanted to have one assessment area and just call it English, I can absolutely do that too. I don't have to organize by assessment area, but this can help keep a standards group together. It's totally a preference thing. I click that add button, and this is the important piece right here. I'm going to name the assessment area, whatever domain or subject area I want to name it. And then I'm going to choose this benchmark result, and that's going to calculate all of my results to a standard-based report card. We have options for using competency-based grading to calculate to an assignment score. So if you are a teacher that is into standard-based grading, but your school requires that you end the term with a letter grade, but you're interested in getting there ethically and equitably, you can calculate to an assignment score. We also have a formative option, and that's for tracking things that don't end up on a report card anywhere. Maybe you're tracking behaviors, or maybe you are a special education teacher and you're tracking student progress on goals. I've seen that be used for formative. It's just not going to report to a standard-based report card, and it's not going to report to a course grade. It's purely for formative feedback. Those of you that are reporting to a standard-based report card are going to choose this middle option and click Save. From there, you're going to start adding your standards. So I've added my assessment area, and beneath the formative assessment box, and really what this means is it's an item to be formatively assessed. We are formatively assessing standards throughout the term. I click Add, and then I select the benchmark and standard that I am formatively assessing throughout the term. So I select that from the drop-down list, and then I select, so the date is going to auto-populate to the last day of the end of term. The number of assessments are the number of times you are going to formatively assess this standard or skill. So you might start out at 1. You can always add to this as you go, and I would recommend starting out at 1 and then building off of that 1 assessment as you go, unless you know the exact number of times you are going to formatively assess an item. In which case, you might say, I know we're going to formatively assess 3 times, or I know that we are actually going to keep track of 3 formative assessments. You might formatively assess 5 to 10 times, but you know that you're going to have a pre-assessment, a midpoint check, and then a summative assessment, for example. So you might have 3 there. And then the calculation options, this is what I was mentioning earlier that makes this kind of revolutionary here. The calculation option is going to translate the results to a result on the standard-based report card. So if we are assessing this 3 times and you want to take the highest score, for example, it's going to look at all 3 of those assessments. It's going to find the highest score, and that's what's going to go on the report card. The most recent score, this option is going to calculate an average of the most recent X number of scores. So you could take the most recent score. So if I formatively assess this 3 times, I use the most recent, it's going to take that most recent result. The other 2 results are going to be essentially formative, and that 3rd result is what's going to go on the standard-based report card. I would say, by and large, the most popular calculation options that standard-based grading purists use are the most recent score and probably the proficiency target, which I'm getting to here in just a second. The decaying average is kind of like a meet me in the middle of the road sort of deal. You want to apply a certain percentage to the most recent performance while including results from the first attempt in the average. It's not my favorite method for calculating a standard-based result. I don't think it's quite as ethical or equitable as, say, the proficiency target. And the proficiency target, what that does is, if you remember when we created our proficiency scale, we marked one of those options as our targeted proficiency. Once a student hits that targeted proficiency X number of times, in this case 2 number of times, then they are going to be proficient on the report card. So I would say the two most common would be that most recent and then the proficiency target. And it kind of depends on what standard you're assessing. Higher order thinking standards are typically assessed with the most recent. So I think of constructing an argument as kind of a higher order thinking skill. I might give feedback on 3 formative assessments and then assess the whole argument at the end. Well, if I'm giving feedback along the way, the first 3 times that I've given feedback, I'm not assessing the whole standard. That 4th one is really what I'm after. The proficiency target, I might use those for lower order thinking skills that are more rote in nature, like using proper spelling, for example. I'm going to give, students are going to turn in written work to me. They might turn in 10 pieces of written work, and I need to see them be proficient spellers at least 4 times out of those 10 opportunities in order to be considered proficient, or at least 5 times, or whatever the case may be. That's where I would use the proficiency target, and I would enter the number of times that I would expect them to show proficiency before they're going to be marked proficiency or proficient on the report card. So those calculation options are really what make this pop as far as like a true formative assessment tool. And once I've got my formative assessment or the item that I'm formatively assessing set, I click that save button and it's going to add it to the formative assessment list. So we'll take a live look at this. And actually, I'm going to bounce back to my 4th grade ELA class because this is the one that I already have set up. This is my course. I'm just going to show you that my assessment area has already been set as a benchmark. So the benchmark result, so the result of this is going to a standard-based report card. And I have already added this standard, but you can edit this. So if I needed to come back and say, oh, we're going to assess this again, I can always come back and I can change this. I can change the calculation option and so forth. I click save. If I need to add a new standard underneath reading informational text, I click add, and it's going to give me, I can write multiple paragraph essays. Save. And this is one where if you have a combination of writing and reading and they're all baked within ELA, you might just have one assessment area that is just the subject. It might just be English, for example, and then you can include all of your standards there. So I just added a new item that I'm going to formatively assess. How often am I going to assess it? Well, let's say at least 1 time, and I'm going to take the most recent calculation option. Click save, and now we're going to get into scoring those formative assessments or assessing students. So the purpose of the competency-based grading module is to eliminate barriers to learning associated with scores and percentages and to get students to focus on the learning. So now that you've set up your proficiency scales, you've defined your standards and learning targets, you're ready to use the competency-based grading module to provide feedback to students and to move learning forward. It essentially turns it into a video game, like, hey, this is where I start. It's not where I'm going to end up. I know what work I need to do. I know what I need to work on to get better, and my end result is going to reflect that. It's going to reflect that growth. So I'm going to head to competency-based grading, score formative assessments. I'll select the course in the assessment area that I'm assessing from those drop-down lists. I'll select the standard from that drop-down list. Note it's very similar in look to the scores gradebook. You've got the students along the left-hand side. You've got the assessments across the top. The one thing to note from this is this assessment equates to that number that I selected, the number of times that I'm assessing a standard. And right now it reads assessment 1, but I can double click that assessment 1 and I can provide additional description to what assessment 1 actually is. So if it's a pre-assessment, I can name it, I can date it, I'll save it there, And then from there, it's a matter of entering results for students. So I can select a color from that drop-down list to add the level of proficiency. And then that result is going to calculate over here based off of the assessment calculation method that I'm using. So if I'm using the most recent score and I only have one score entered, if we ended the term today, that's the result that's going to go on the report card. It's early yet, so if I add another assessment and we're still using the most recent, that most recent result is going to take the place of what was listed right there at the beginning. We also have a number of features in the quick links section, including edit score note, so you can add some more information that will be viewable in JMC Student and JMC Family. It might provide next steps for student learning in there. The fill score column button or link will allow you to populate on down, kind of as I was talking about with the standard-based report card. So you can enter one result, fill score column, and it will populate results for all of those. It's a huge time saver. Just the same with the scores gradebook, you can manually override a result that's supposed to go to a report card. So as a teacher, you know your students, you can see the body of evidence, and if the body of evidence is not reflective of what the student knows and can do, you know that best, you know what should go on the report card, you can manually override by selecting the result that should go on the report card, and then that checkbox or that check mark will come up in that checkbox showing that you have manually overridden that. If you remove the check mark from the checkbox, it's going to go back to the calculated version there. And same with the scores, you click the publish button and your families can keep track of student progress as the term goes. And you publish those results, and what they see up through that current date will be what's listed in your gradebook. So let's take a live look at scoring formative assessments. I'm going to go to score formative assessment, and I've already done some of these, and that's why there's some results on that standard-based report card. This was an assessment that I added when I first got there. So I've got my 4th grade ELA. Here's my reading informational text. This is one standard. This is the second standard that I added. I can write multiple paragraph essays. I double click the assessment and now I can name it. So this might be my pre-writing activity. And I might be looking for a couple specific skills when I'm assessing that. I'm using the most recent score to calculate to the report card. The result over here is what's going to be listed on the report card. And now I'm ready to score student work. And you know what? We're still not there. Some of them exhibited skill on that one skill, some proficiency on that one skill, but we're not quite there yet. So I might fill that score column with where we are. And actually, it's not insufficient evidence. We're beginning to show progress. So I'm going to throw beginning in there. Make sure it's highlighted if I wanted to fill the score column. And then, maybe I have one student that wasn't able to put anything down on the report card, or a couple students that weren't able to put anything down, not on the report card, on the assessment. I can edit the score note, and I could say something to the effect of, mark it for that student, and then when I publish, my families will be able to see that. And speaking of what families can see, they're going to see a formative assessment report similar to this. It's going to look like this. They're going to see the standard. They're going to see the times that I have formatively assessed this standard, and then they're going to see the calculated results. So a lot of schools that I work with like this just as much as they like the standard-based report card. The standard-based report card is one succinct report card of all standards after the fact, but many of my schools use these formative assessment reports during conferences to talk about individual standards with families. So a great tool built right in there that it's under competency-based grading reports, formative assessment reports. You can see it shows the colors, it shows um, the grid or the proficiency scale, communicating what does this green mean? Oh, it means that they are meeting grade level standard. And I actually have this organized by date, so you can kind of see the student's learning journey there. So over the course of the couple weeks, and this is something that you can use as a positive reinforcement for your students that have exhibited grit. You know, they started out at the beginning of the month, they didn't understand this. They gave me insufficient evidence. I didn't even know what, you didn't even know what a paragraph was. And by the end of this, through reassessment and reassessment as needed, now you've met the standard. So great job. If there aren't any questions, I'm going to finish this out. I know we're already like 2 hours into this, but I want to highlight some reports and other helpful tools in JMC Teacher that I really like, and then we're going to be done with this today. Starting with, and this is under reports, progress reports. This is primarily used for those that are using scores. It's just a way to view student progress all on one page. These comments are used on the as the predefined comments on those progress reports. So you can add predefined comments for those progress reports. Your missing scores report's a handy tool that provides a quick snapshot of all missing scores for selected courses. So if you're trying to see what's missing, you can include all missing scores or only those that have been coded M or MI. Student summary is similar to the progress report that families would view in JMC Families, just another view of that. The assignment summary is kind of handy if you want to see how everybody in your school or in your course did on one specific assignment. Gives you the class mean, median, and maximum and minimum. The grade summary, it's a very similar thing with the end of term grade, so you can kind of see what the class average is and the class maximum as far as a percentage goes. Score grid allows you to kind of print out or an exported version of your grade book, basically. So if you wanted a paper copy of your grade book after the fact, you could go to that scores grid page and print out or export a copy of your grade book. Class assignments show all of the assignments for a given class along with the points possible. So if you have a parent that's wondering, hey, what assignments exist for this class, you can print that out and hand it to them. Something that I used all the time, these blank score sheets under reports here are just going to print out a blank score grid. I used to use this for keeping track of book numbers and things like that, but nice little tool to throw on a clipboard and walk around the room with. Student name and number lists. So if you want a list of the kids, just a straight number list of the kids that are in your classes, you can print that off there. Student lists is a very powerful data mining tool. So almost all the data that's in JMC can be mined through the student lists report. You can pull specific items from, what do you want from JMC in this report? You can preview it. It will list all of the students along with whatever selected data that you have selected there. If you're interested in this, we have a webinar on our YouTube channel just on student lists. So search our YouTube channel for student lists and it'll show you how to operate this thing. You create birthday lists right off the bat, create contact lists so you can have the phone numbers of the primary contacts for your students all on one page. Student summary report is an assessment report to view student performance data for a certain benchmark or standard. So this would be for you that are using standard-based report cards. Similar to the progress report, you have a summary report for standards and your standardized test query. If you have standardized tests entered into JMC, such as ACTs or FAST results, you can query those results. The results would be entered in JMC Office and you would be able to pull them from JMC Teacher. And once the end of the term is complete, if you are using a standard-based report card, you've submitted that report card to the office, you can print those standard-based report cards from JMC Teacher as well. I would suggest, in lieu of me giving a live look of any of these reports, after the term gets going, you're a few weeks in, you've got some data entered into JMC, go through those reports. They're on the under reports. They're just all listed right down here. I would run those reports. Start with the blank score sheets just to get a feel for what data is shown in there. You're not going to break anything by running reports. You're not going to hurt anything. There's nothing you can screw up with those reports. It's just a matter of running them to see what information they show you. And then you can print those off or export them as needed. With that, this concludes our ABCs of JMC Teacher. As you get going throughout the term, if you have any questions or any need for additional training pops up, please email training@jmcinc.com. We can set up a one-to-one opportunity with you, and we can work with you that way. So wish you a happy and successful start to your school year, and we will catch you on the flip side.